Hello, world. We are back with another episode. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. I'm the host, Culture Shock. Appreciate you guys for tuning in tonight. I hope we got some football. Football is officially back. I know you guys are excited. We are super excited as well. I cannot be here alone tonight, of course, but I'm with my guy, Landon. Landon, how we doing?
Doing great, man. Like you said, football's back. We actually get some Colts football, here in a couple of days, 2 or 3 days. So I'm more than excited, man. Ready to see preseason, see some of these battles, for positions kind of get solidified as we move along and all that. But yeah, definitely excited. Football is officially back. I believe
Yes,
we don't. I believe there's a football game every week now until like what February.
that is
So
correct.
yeah,
Football is officially back. We
we
get
made
a,
it.
a chance to see Hendon Hooker today. If you guys are watching as of today, Hendon Hooker displays his abilities. We got a chance to meet him at the Senior Bowl. So shout out to Hendon
Yeah.
Hooker. Awesome guy, awesome sauce. And we got some Colts news for you guys. So tune in. We got a lot to talk about. I know you guys have been talking about it all week, but we're going to discuss it today for you guys. Appreciate you for supporting us on all the platforms as well. Let's go ahead and hop into the topic of discussion. I was thinking about where I wanted to start, but I think we all know where we should start. Of course, we got to talk about the Josh Downs injury in training camp. It was an unfortunate accident. Of course, everyone has their thoughts on how the process what went down. Pretty much a 7-on-7 drill. Well, pretty much a drill, and it was a non-contact drill. Of course, Nick Cross wound up taking down Josh Downs. Everybody was furious. The crowd was in shock. Josh Downs got tackled to the ground, hurt his ankle, was down for a little bit. But, per medical exam, it looks like he's going to be back maybe during the season opener. So he's probably going to sit game one, probably have him back game two. But the whole process was, I think everybody was scared about him missing more time than what it was going to be. And I think what made it worse was Nick Cross' response to the situation when he talked to the media after it. It looked like he was more on the verge of, it's a contact sport and we're out there battling and not remembering that the drill was, non-contact in general. And you heard one of your guys in practice, and we haven't been tackling in training camp for a long time, so it was kind of like one of those things where he could have had a better response and approach to the situation. Of course, he could have been a little bit more apologetic, but it's a young guy, so hopefully we can, spare him at this point because it could have been worse. So I mean, it is what it is. At the end of the day, of course, he could have handled it better. I'm glad that Josh Downs is in good spirits and trying to recover back from the injury. What was your thoughts on this situation at hand and how Nick Cross approached
Well, I mean, first, so like I can see like both sides. Like I'm, yeah, Luke. That's still like one of my favorite photos of all time. Um, if you haven't seen that one, I'm sure it's somewhere on Luke's Twitter. You can go find that. He took a picture of Hendon Hooker at the Senior Bowl. Hendon Hooker looks like he wants to kill Luke, uh, for taking the photograph. He does not look thrilled with him. And it's so funny. We had such a good laugh about that photo when we were down there. Um, as far as the situation goes, obviously it sucks. Losing Josh Downs for any amount of time because by all accounts, he's probably been the best player on offense at in camp. He's dominated, and you don't ever want to see one of your integral pieces of your offense go down, especially in a drill like that. On the flip side, I'm not really as mad about what Nick Cross said, I guess, as what other people are, because he is correct. I mean, it is a contact sport. I mean, it's football. Like the injury rate for football players is 100%. Like there's no single player that has played the sport of football that has not dealt with an injury at some point, and especially at that position. Like these guys are battling to make an impression. They're going all out because that safety spot is still not solidified. They have a chance to break, whatever tie or battle they can by showing out in camp. Now that doesn't mean it wasn't stupid. I mean, like it was a mistake. It shouldn't have happened. You know, 7-on-7 drills, especially whenever you're running non-contact stuff. I mean, it's pretty much two-hand touch football. Like, there's no reason for you to take that guy down and this is what can happen sometimes. But it was a mistake. I mean, like, he didn't mean to injure him. He was just trying to make a play out there. And it's just an unfortunate incident for both parties. Like, it sucks for Nick Cross, and I'm sure it's something they've addressed privately too. Like, everybody's mad about his response to the media, but like, I'm sure he's talked to Josh Downs. I'm sure he's apologized. I'm sure they're on good terms. I don't think it was anything like he meant to go out there and injure anybody. So it's just unfortunate. It sucks. Good news. Well, the good news is he's not going to miss like a prolonged period of time. The bad news is it's a high ankle sprain. And those injuries, I know, like, I put this in the group too. Like, that's not something that just, I mean, like, 4 weeks and everything's good. Like, I mean, it's 4 to 6 weeks to get back onto the field, but that's something like you deal with for months and months on end. Like, it really at that point becomes more of like a pain management type of thing. Like, can I deal with the cutting? Can I deal with the routes? Can I deal with planting on that leg and that ankle and all like the force going down to that ankle? Can I withstand the pain of that? It's not something that week 1, week 2 rolls around and he's 100%. Everything's golden. Like, this is something he's going to be. I mean, it's very much like kind of like hamstring injuries or like those soft tissue injuries that like you can get it to where it's manageable and you can play on it, but you're not really at full speed 100%, until months go by. And a lot of the times that stuff lingers into the off season as well. Um, and so it does worry me. Yeah, for sure. I think he still can go out there, do his thing, be an effective player. I don't have any doubts about that. But this whole thing of like, well, like, he'll 4 to 6 weeks, he'll be ready, week 1, week 2, all that stuff. Like, no, it's probably gonna linger on until about mid-season, maybe even a little bit longer before he's actually fully over it, to the point to where it's not, just painful and stuff like that. So it sucks for sure for both
Yeah,
parties.
I agree 100%. And and even Nick Cross mentioned it when he was talking to the press that he said Josh Downs, that's his guy. So they're going to battle, and I'm pretty sure this won't be the last time. I mean, just the other day we seen EJ Speed and Michael Pittman Jr. fighting, which is much worse. But it's competition at the end of the day for sure. Definitely this question I was going to ask was, of course, we seen it. We're both in the same chat as well. A lot of people was at Nick Cross head and they wanted him to get cut. And of course, me being the troll, I troll, so I said it just to be funny. But what was your thoughts about most Colts fans wanting Nick Cross to be cut? And before I let you go, I would say that Nick Cross and Josh Downs have both have impressive training camps so far. This whole training camp process. So asking for a potential starter to be cut is kind of crazy.
Yeah, it's stupid. Like, I mean, if you like, this is why I'm on here. It's not to like sugarcoat stuff. Like, it's dumb. Like, the position is already weak. Like, it's not good. Why would you want to make it even worse than it already is? I mean, that makes zero sense. Like, they're already having trouble deciding who's a starter, and now you want to cut out somebody that is like at the very worst, like at least depth. And let's not forget either, like, they traded a future pick to move up in the third round to take this guy. So not only are you wasting one pick if you cut him, you're wasting two picks and depth if you cut him over something that was clearly an accident. Like, that's stupid. Like, quit being emotional. Like, just grow up. It's
Yeah,
life.
I agree, man. It is what it is. Of course, every fan base is going to, have that certain group where they're just like super fans, and you know what I
Well,
mean
you
by
know what
super
like
fans. So
fan is short for, right? No, like, I'm
is it
I'm
a
being serious.
is it
Like,
appropriate?
what yeah, it's short for
you know,
fanatic.
yes,
And so, like, people are, like, fanatical, which a lot of times that's not a good thing.
right.
Um, it leads to a lot of negativity and emotions and stuff like that, that people just don't think clearly and they just pop off. the first thing that comes to their head, and most people are always going to take the negative route. So yeah, I mean, you just fans are fans. It's
Yeah, they're
whatever.
crazy.
You start listening to the fans, you're going to be sitting with them. That's
That's true.
that's the old verbiage, like for front office people. If you start listening to the fans, soon you're going to be sitting with them. So
Yeah, that is definitely a good saying. Of course, prayers up to
Chris
Josh
Ballard should
Downs.
be listening to me here in a little bit. I'll say that right now. It's-
Yeah, prayers to Josh Downs, man. We got other injuries we have to talk about for sure. Another one that happened earlier in the training camp was Samson Ibukam. He went down with an injury, and he's going to be missing pretty much all season. So that is a very significant injury. I think Samson, of course, we both can agree, had a very good season last year. Coming off the scene, as soon as we got to the Colts, he just had a heavy impact, and it's going to be a huge loss. But I think on the bright side is looking at the depth of the edge rushers. Of course, we have the highest upside. We have a lot of potential out of all of those guys, especially with guys like Dio, Quiddy, Latu, and then we mentioned guys like Taekwon Lewis coming back as well that we brought back. A lot of depth pieces and rotations that we can do. Of course, Sampson's going to be highly missed because I feel like he was one of the most impactful. And wish a speedy recovery. What's your thoughts on the Sampson injury and the edge rush moving forward?
I mean, it's a huge injury. Like people just kind of like they just wrote it off. Like, oh well, it'll be okay. Like Latu will just move in and nothing. Like, that's it. Um, I don't really think it's that simple. This is, I mean, as talented as Latu is, and as much as I like him, obviously, and even like what he's done in camp has been great. Like, I don't think by any stretch of the imagination, like he can't go out there and just have a great season. But I mean, if you look at it last year, Ebukam, however you want to pronounce his last name, um, he's the best pass rusher on this team. Outside of DeForest Buckner. And anytime you lose a guy that basically has that many pressures and the pass rush, I mean, he was like near the top of the league in pass rush win rate. Like I'm talking about out of all players, not just the Colts players. And almost have double digit sacks, led the team in sacks. Anytime you lose a guy like that, that's a big deal. And that's just not somebody you just replace like that. Like you will, like the Colts will feel that loss this season. Now, like you said, if there's one position they can kind of suffer like an injury like that at, it probably is the defensive line because of the rotation that they have there. With Lewis played some really good snaps last year. I thought that last year was his best year, um, and I think he's only going to get better the further away from those knee injuries he gets. He's only going to get better. Dio, I know he's been dealing with a little bit of injury, but he seemed like he was back the other day in camp, in practice. And so if he can take another leap, I think Quiddy Pay, from everything they've been saying at training camp, like that's the guy you really need to lean on right now. He's, at this point going in to like the latter part of his rookie deal, he can be considered kind of one of the veterans along that line. Um, and this is the year for him. Like he's been showing out in camp. He's came in a little bit lighter. He's a little more explosive. He's been making a really big impact. So like this is the person you really want to lean on to take that leap and really solidify himself as the best pass rusher on this team. Because I mean, let's not forget he's a first round pick. Like you don't take first round defensive ends to be run stoppers. You just don't. Like these are guys that you want double digit sacks out of on a yearly basis. If he can finally become that guy, because we've seen it in flashes, but we just haven't seen it consistently. If he can get it down pat to where he's doing that consistently, I think with him taking a leap and with Latu coming in, I think he's going to be really, really good as a rookie. Then Taekwon Lewis, a fully healthy season. Dio, of course, make like if he can take a leap, I think you can minimize the loss. But you don't just write off a loss like Samson Ebukam as like they'll be just fine. Like that's a big loss for this team.
I agree 100%, man. I wish nothing but the best for that edge rush. Of course, they took a leap last year from the previous season. And I think, as, continuity and the season goes on and years go on and they stay together and, start to get older as well with experience, I think they can actually be something moving forward, especially with Grover and Buckner being right there with them. So, you know, the sky is the limit. Of course, we wish nothing but the best for Sampson. Hopefully, he comes back as soon as possible. But I do think, like I said, that is a piece on the roster that you can have a lot of depth and have less than more worry. Of course, we're going to talk about the other positions that need moving forward. Of course, we just mentioned Josh Downs and his injury. Of course, if he does miss a few games, that leaves the slot position open. Of course, we mentioned Anthony Gould coming out the draft. That's one of your favorite picks as well. Very explosive, very fast, very quick, and could be a good piece moving forward. So, moving into that, I was mentioning how this preseason could be a really eye opener for Anthony going into because he can go out there and display his skills and be improvised a lot going into the season. What's your thoughts on him potentially being in that role until Josh Downs come back and the opportunity for him?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it's a chance to seize the opportunity, and I don't think it's just him either. Um, I think there's like numerous ways you can kind of address the Josh Downs injury. Should you need to set him and go into the regular season with him not playing, I mean, you could even move Michael Pittman Jr. in to that role to be kind of like a big slot receiver, and then you have Mitchell and Pierce out on the outside as well. Um, you know, playing those kind of roles. So, and then you get into the tight end room as well. Like they might not run a lot of 11 personnel. Maybe they run more, you know, 12 personnel or 13 personnel where there's two or three tight ends out there and you've only got the two wide receivers. This is a very versatile tight end room. We've talked about it before with Will Mallory, Drew Ogletree, Jelani Woods, Mo Alley Cox, who's the first string tight end again right now. Uh, for now. So there's a myriad of different ways that you can kind of get around it and still be productive because you've got a lot of versatile players on the offense that can play multiple roles. Um, but another one, like you said, Anthony Gold, he's another guy that can kind of fit that mold of like the smaller, shifty, run after catch, guy that you can get the ball in his hands and just kind of let him do his thing. Yeah, Mo Alley Cox will forever. He's like it's kind of a bad example now because he's not a Colt, but I would, I was gonna say he's like the offensive version of who's the defensive end that the Colts signed. Chris Ballard loves that they always sign.
Was it Akadi Muhammad?
Yes, he's like the offensive version of Akadi Muhammad. Uh, the guy's he's always going to have ties to the Colts no matter what.
I'll never forget last year being at training camp. I was like, "Whoa, what's Akadi Muhammad doing here?" They signed him. Oh yeah. Oh, I forgot.
He's forever. Uh, it's so funny too. Even like a week or two ago, like that Schefter tweet, it was like the Colts signed Al-Qadim Muhammad, and everybody was like, "Oh my god!" Like here we go again, and it ended up just being because he's been signed so many times from the Colts that Schefter probably just had it ready to fire off in his drafts. Like he already had it like ready to go for when it happened again. He just saw the name and just hit tweet. He didn't even read that it was the Cowboys. So that's just normal. But yeah, it's Anthony Gold has a chance to really make an impact not only as a returner, but I think he's going to have some value as wide receiver and not just a slot guy either. I think he's got some value as like a deep threat guy on the outside that you can even, kind of play in that Adonai Mitchell, Alec Pierce kind of a role of that deep threat down the field. He can spell those guys in some spots as well and make an impact there. So there's going to be a myriad of ways. Like anytime you can get a guy with that kind of skill set, think of obviously I'm just talking about the way he's used, but think of a guy kind of like Deebo Samuel for the 49ers, how they use him in so many different ways. I think Anthony Gold can kind of fill
He
that
got his
role.
own package.
yeah. So I'm I'm excited to see how things end up working their way out. He's a guy that I'm super excited to watch in preseason to see kind of how they use like now obviously it's preseason. They're not gonna show anything cool. Like there's gonna be very like just a warning to everybody in preseason. I feel like I've got to do this every year. This is going to be very bare bones vanilla scheme. Like you're not going to see the cool formations that you're going to see from Shane Steichen and the offensive staff in the regular season. This is just bare bones offense and bare bones defense, which actually bare bones defense coincidentally is also what you will see in the regular season as well from the defensive staff. Nothing will change. You won't get
Boy, I
exotic
like this.
packages. You won't get blitzes. You won't get that. You will get cover three, and you will like it.
Hey, man, it is what
That's
it
all you're
is to
going to
each
get.
his own.
So
That's
the
fair.
defense you see in preseason, that's the defense you'll see in the regular season too. But
Speaking of preseason, the Colts do play the Broncos this Sunday. It's going to be an exciting one. Shout out to Bo Nix and Franklin for the Broncos. They'll be out there. Don't know how long they'll be playing, but it is what it is. Those are two guys I looked at the draft and was like, oh, this is nice. So, you
you saw
mentioned how you were looking forward to seeing Anthony Gold play in the preseason. Let me get one offense and one defensive guys you'll be looking for watching in this Colts and Broncos Week 1 game for the preseason. You already mentioned
well,
Gold, so that doesn't count.
yeah. Well, I mean, so depend. Like we don't know if the starters are going to play or anything like that. But a guy that I'm really going to have my eye on, even if he's not starting, I think he is going to play. Is Jelani Woods. That's somebody we didn't get to see at all last year. We saw the flashes in year one, didn't play at all last year. I'm curious to see how he looks coming back from that hamstring injury. What the speed looks like, how he looks blocking, how he looks, if he has a chance to get the ball in his hands, the yards after catch. I'm just really curious to see Jelani Woods and, how he looks if he's grown at all any, since that year one where he really flashed some special stuff. So he's an offensive guy. I'm really excited to watch. Defense, it's I mean easily like it's got to be the secondary, right? And it's not just one guy. Like it's the entire secondary. Like you've because none of these guys have proven outside of Julian Blackman and Kenny Moore, none of these guys have proven they can play in the NFL. Even Juju Brents, and I know like that's probably going to piss some people off, which like whatever, I don't care. Um, but I mean, like I'm serious. I mean, he hasn't proven anything in the NFL yet. He's had some decent snaps last year, but he's got a long way to go. And Jalen Jones, that's a long way to go. Any of the other cornerbacks, we're gonna see like is Darrell Baker Jr. out there? Like, is Dallas Flowers recovered from the Achilles injury? Nick Cross and Rodney Thomas, who knows? They got freaking Harrison out there playing safety again for like whatever reason. Like they did that. So I mean, like, is he gonna make it? Like, who in the secondary outside of Kenny Moore and Julian Blackman can step up and make plays? So I'm gonna be watching the entire secondary almost the entire time the Colts are on defense. I'm not even gonna look at the defensive line. Um, I mean, linebackers, like if some people really want to watch that, they can because the depth at linebacker is kind of like iffy as well. But some of those guys, they can still play a little bit. The secondary, it's a toss up, and I don't feel good about. I don't feel good about cornerback. I don't feel good about safety outside of Blackman. Um, it on paper, it looks like a disaster. So in the preseason, can any of those guys, is the coverage tight or are they blowing assignments like they did last year? Or are they getting beat deep consistently like they did last year? Like this is it. I don't know. So that's what I'm going to be watching. Like that's actually the most intriguing thing outside of like, obviously I hope Anthony Richardson plays because he needs reps, like regardless of what everybody thinks. like, oh, well, you don't want to play him in preseason because you're scared of him getting hurt. Like, yeah, I get that. But at the same time, like, you can't just like roll a guy out there cold in week one. Like, you gotta warm it up. Like, he still hasn't like taken a hit. Like, and I know you don't ever want your quarterback to get hit, but like to me, like that's kind of what I like. I want Anthony Richardson to get tackled one time, so that way, and if you ever listen to Andrew Luck, that's what he said whenever he was coming back, and like that's what I always used to like too. Like, um, you like to get hit just once. You don't want to get hit a bunch, just one time, because it lets you know, like, okay, I'm fully healthy. I can take the shot and get back up. I feel like myself again. This feels like football. Can we can move on. Can I get hit, get back up and play another snap and not be injured? Okay, cool. Now we're ready to go. So, if Anthony Richardson goes out there, now I would love it, of course, if he never got touched the entire season. Like if nobody ever laid a finger on him for the entire year, that is like the goal, right? You don't ever want your quarterback to get hurt. But I mean, this, like I said, this is football. Like Nick Cross said, this this is football. Everybody, I mean,
Not a good time.
yeah,
Not a
it's
good
gonna
time.
happen. So I'm sure, like for him, just knowing like how he plays and how his mindset is, like getting that first lick out of the way, it and like proving to yourself that like my shoulder's good, I'm healthy, I don't have anything to worry about. Let's go to work. I think that's a good thing, and he needs the reps. Like you've got to get that guy the most amount of reps as he can get, as like they feel comfortable with. So um, if he were to set out any of the preseason games, maybe the last one, I would be okay with them setting out and preparing to get the season going, getting a little bit of extra rest to start the year. But I would like to see him. I want to see them play a full quarter in the first game, maybe even possibly going into mid to late second quarter, maybe even halftime of the next game, and then you can set him the third game. That's fine, but you got to get that dude reps. He's got to play football.
I see your point there. Especially that can segue into our next topic, of course, after I give my players that I was going to look to watch for this preseason game. Anthony Richardson, don't get me wrong, has had a very nice training camp. Of course, it could have been better. Of course, everybody wants to see the touchdowns, the passes like he did last year, like the bomb he threw to Alec Pierce. But I think he's been pretty afloat this training camp, and he's shown some techniques in foot movement, and it's been improvement from what he did last year. So I think we've seen improvement and progression, I would say, from Anthony Richardson. And to be honest, it's like when you talk about having him play these preseason games, it's because in reality, this team has put a lot of pressure on him. Of course, you've mentioned it a lot, and everybody else knows that in the room and a Colts fan. You don't even have to be a genius to understand the point that this team is putting the Colts, on Anthony Richardson's back. When you look at the overall group of the team, when you look at the linebacker rooms, of course we have leaders, of course we have captains, but the franchise quarterback is a huge piece for your team's success and longevity to stay afloat on top of the NFL. And then when you look at, even this Justin Simmons debate, like this team is hesitant on not getting anyone moving forward in the offseason. Of course, it's been like this for a while, but now that you had your franchise quarterback, you thought that was going to change. They haven't done anything. It's still the same thing. So it's like if you want to be at the upper echelon or the upper quartile of the NFL, you got to make sure this guy is ready to go out there and be willing to put his all out there and actually be 100% ready to have a full length of football in them, because it's going to be tough. It really is. And of course, a little bit of pressure is off of him because he has a coach like Shane Steichen. If we had somebody else in mind where it wasn't like a consistent, it would be a little bit worrisome. But I think with Shane Steichen And what he did last year with this team, to what we had the year before with the quarterback carousel and the coaching carousel, it got us to 9 wins. I think when you have a guy like Richardson back into the system, it makes you a little bit more at ease with the situation. So I agree with you 100%. What was your thoughts on Anthony Richardson's training camp so far and the pressure that this Colts team has put on?
Yeah, well, I mean, so I'll answer the first part first. He's at a really good training camp, and like this is the stuff I wanted to see. Remember, we talked before training camp. We wanted to see the little things, right? Like, I mean, you don't have to go out there and throw a touchdown every single play. Like, I don't care about that, but it was the little things. Like, is he getting through his progressions? Is his footwork lined up? Or, is he, hitting the plays on time consistently? Getting these guys the ball to where they can work in those yards after catch situations and make their lives easier. I think the answer has been yes. I think the most impressive thing, and Shane Steichen's talked about it as well, has been his ability to the mental processing, right? Because he's now going in his second year in this offense. He understands everything a little bit, or probably not even a little bit, probably a lot better than he did last year. And so, and I've always thought that's been like the most underrated part of his game, even going back to college, because you would see him make mistakes early on in the year. He wouldn't make those mistakes, like the mistakes he made in September at Florida. He wasn't making those mistakes in November. Like that guy is able to take information and apply it directly. And you saw the growth. Like I wasn't very high on him at all September, October of his college year. And then the growth he showed as the year went on, once you got into like November and especially the early part of December, you were like, this isn't even the same player. Like this is a different quarterback. Um, and you're starting to see that now going into his second year in this offense, where he understands, whenever your quarterback can recognize, like, hey, this guy's not running the right route and he can correct them, that's what you need out of a quarterback. That's what you need. You need a guy that understands not just his position, but understands every position and where guys are supposed to be. What the inner workings of the offense. And I think having a teacher like Shane as well is such a blessing to any quarterback, but specifically a young one like that, who's so early on into his career at quarterback. He's barely played football, the last few years outside of Florida. He's or really in his whole cut. I mean, this guy's had what 16 starts, since college, including last year. So he's still like he's very, very young, green in his career. And so the fact that everything's slowed down for him and he's getting those mental things correct, that's when I think you see guys take the next step. So that's what I'm excited for. As far as the second part of that question about the pressure that they've put on him, I hate it. I hate it. I don't agree with it. I think it's dumb. Honestly, like I think it's stupid. Um, because you're asking the world of this young man. And I get he's a franchise quarterback, number 4 overall pick. I get that. That doesn't mean that you have to lay everything at his feet and say, "Hey, we're going to need you to carry this entire franchise on your back." You 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 are allowed to make things easier on him to where he doesn't have to feel like he has to go out there and be Superman every single drive, to where he feels like, "Hey, it's okay. If we don't score this drive, that's okay. I know my defense has got me. They're going to get me the ball back. I don't have to put up 35 points a game." Um, and putting so much pressure on somebody that young and that green, I don't think it's the correct move. I don't agree with it. That doesn't mean he can't handle it. That doesn't mean he's not going to show out this year. It is what it is. But I think they could have done a lot more to kind of solidify the rest of the roster around him with some more established veteran players, that have, produced in this league. They could have done more of that instead of relying so heavily on Richardson and the offense to carry such a heavy burden this entire season. And um, I know, like, whenever, we do our predictions and all that at the end of the year, or at the not end of the year, but, like, the end of the month and all that before the season starts, I'll get into a little bit more, but, like, it's it's very worrisome. I'm very worried about the direction things are kind of headed in, with management and stuff like that. It does worry me, but it's still early. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, 100%. And there's nothing wrong with feeling that way. Shout out to Christian, we see you. Um, there's nothing wrong with feeling that way, of course. Everyone has their opinion, of course, but pressure, it bursts pipes. So we're gonna see what's gonna happen. It's gonna be a huge test this year. We just seen we can go into this conversation now. I think it's time to talk about it. We talk about pressure and players being available and not going to grab. The whole Justin Simmons situation. He just left New Orleans. There's no deal yet, so that is a good sight. But the Colts did not make a move yet. He's still out there, and there are other safeties that just got taken off the market the day before as well. And a few of them just went to AFC South rivals. I think Amos just went to the Jaguars, and there's other safeties out there available that can still be a good use to the team. Um, but they're just sitting on their hands as usual. My thoughts on the whole Justin Simmons situation. I would love to have him on the team. If we don't get him, I understand and I'm fine. Of course, he would definitely be a huge help. But when it comes to um, putting a bang on your buck for your players. Um, you'd rather do it with a free contract than going out there and pay for a free agent that might not work out. I think that's the philosophy. I'm not sure. I'm not an expert. But when it comes to Nick Cross, that has potential. This could be his first time starting at safety with Julian Blackman. I think that Julian can help him a lot back there for a guy that plays both positions, so we can see what happens. But like I said, I'm a fan of having Simmons come in. Of course, if we don't, I mean, it is what it is. At the end of the day, the guys still got to go out there and perform. No matter who it is, a free agent or a player, it's Gus Bradley's scheme. You got to go out there and give it your all. He's going to put these players in position to make the play. It just relies on athleticism. Honestly, he puts them on the island.
Yeah,
So
see, that's where I disagree. I
yeah,
disagree. I don't think he does put them in position to make plays. I think he puts them in positions a lot of times, and it makes life really difficult on them, the secondary specifically, because what you just said, a lot of these guys are out on islands. And whenever you don't have proven players on that back end that have proven in this league that they can perform at a high level and handle that kind of responsibility, it's extremely negligent and detrimental to the entire defense and really the entire team. Um, because it's not even just the secondary as well. As much as everybody loves Zaire Franklin, me specific, like I love Zaire. Have no issues. He's not the greatest player in pass coverage. That's just the facts. Maybe he takes that leap this year. I'm excited. We'll see. If anybody can do it, I think he can. He's one of my favorite players in football. Um, but there's so much pressure on guys that have not proven that they can do it to play at such a high level in a very difficult scheme that it's almost negligent to not have veterans that have proven they can play in this league to at least, they have to be starters, like just depth. Like if somebody, like what happens if Julian Blackman goes down? Like, I mean, because has he played a healthy season yet? Has he played all six teams in a season yet? No, he hasn't. History dictates that he's probably going to miss a game or two. Hopefully not, but it is what it is. That's just the facts of the matter. And I think the way this defense runs, this, strict, we're not going to blitz, we're not going to do anything exotic. Like we're just going to line up and play defense. And whenever you have young guys that, and Chris Ballard talked about it. Like these guys, like we're going young. These guys are going to take their lumps, all that. But how many more years of like this whole like we just need to be patient and let these guys develop? Dude, this is year 8. This team has not won a division title in a decade. This team has not made the playoffs since Phillip Rivers. How many more years are we supposed to be patient? Because patience is running out. For me, it's running out for, I would say, the majority of fans. Majority of fans want to win. We want it. We root for this team because we want to see them win and do well. And this, like, if these are the players you're going to stick with, fine, cool, whatever. Then, but I mean, it's fine. But at that point, you are going to have to mix things up to make their life easier. Jesus Christ. Sorry, that was. See, he's upset now. But if you are going to play this type of, Gus Bradley, strict cover 3, 60, 70% of the time, leave these guys one-on-one on the outside. You've got to have the players to do it. I mean, everybody wants to point out like this Seattle scheme, right? Like, oh, look what he did with Seattle. I don't see Earl Thomas back there. I don't see Richard Sherman back there or Cam Chancellor. Yeah, you can run that type of scheme when you have Hall of Fame talent in your back end. But if you've got a lot of unproven guys and, 7th round picks and undrafted free agents and all that, dude, you are doing nobody. Yes. Is it National Cat Day? I don't know. If it is, I need to wish. That's my wife's cat, by the way, because you can tell because I'm talking about football and he's screaming. But yeah, so I mean, it's extremely. I think it's negligent. I think it's dumb, and it's worrisome. That's where I stand on it. I don't think it's smart. It doesn't even have to be, like I said, it doesn't even have to be Justin Simmons. Like, I would love to have Justin Simmons, obviously. Great player, proven player, all pro caliber player in this league that's proven he can play at a high level. Love to have it. But if not, I think not signing anybody and just strictly relying on guys that have not gotten it done in the past, you're setting yourself up for failure. You're setting the team up for failure. You're setting the offense and Anthony Richardson up to, I'm not going to say for failure because I think the offense is going to be really good, but you're putting a lot on their plate, man. And I think a lot of people are just kind of fed up. If this gets into January again and we're sitting down having an end of season press conference at the beginning of January and we've got to hear like, look, this is on me. I didn't do enough. You guys can blame me. I didn't do good for a position that, once again, everybody with 2 eyes can look at and say, hey, we don't have enough there, to perform at a high level. We need more. And it's not just fans. It's, analysts and basically everybody's looking at the Colts secondary right now and they're like, man, I don't know what their plan is. If we get into that situation again where we're having an early press conference at the beginning of January, you're gonna have a lot of angry people.
Yeah. Of course, I probably will not be one of them. I'll
No,
be
you're the best of us though, right?
I
Like
try. It has to be somebody, right?
it's
Like,
eternally optimistic. Like it's so much better than how my brain works, where like I have
yeah,
to live in like the real world where it's like, look, I don't want to be like this. Nobody wants to talk like this. I want to be talking
right.
about how great our secondary is and how great things are. And hopefully at the end of the year, that's what I'm talking about. Hopefully we're sitting there and I can look back on this and I can be like, man, I was an idiot, right? Because I love being an idiot. Like I do. If I'm proven wrong, that means usually good things are happening. And so I would love to look back on this in 4 or 5 months and say, boy, was I wrong. Boy, was I stupid. And we're sitting here and Juju Brents is a Pro Bowl cornerback, and Jalen Jones is looking like what a steal in the 7th round, right? Like they drafted that kid in the 7th round. Colts got a steal, and Nick Cross is like, hey, we understand why they traded up to go get that guy. Julian Blackmon's an All-Pro. Like, that's my dream. I would love it more than anybody. But just right now, I think, like I said, with them being so unproven in this league, even if that's the route you want to go, I think you need a veteran presence back there that if things don't go that way, you have somebody that you can turn to and be fine.
And I agree 100%. There's nothing wrong with having that thought process. Like I said, we want to bring something last year for sure. We were on the brinks. Of course, we fell short. I think, like I said, I still think it's a huge leap from where we were the year before. Getting to 9 wins with the backup quarterback is quite impressive. I'd love to see what they can do with the starter. All it's going to take is time, is patience. Just bear with me. I will be your shining light. So before we get up out of here, I'm just going to give my players and then the reason why, of course. On the offensive side, what I'm looking for in this first game, of course, Wesley French just went down with an injury, is going to be out. So I'm looking for your guy Tanner Bortolini and see how he's going to play. He has a huge opportunity ahead of himself. It's going to be the backup center moving forward. And if he goes out there and impresses in which I think he does, I think he can, push himself into having more time out there on the field, especially with the uncertainty of Ryan Kelly moving forward. Tanner has a huge opportunity, and I can't stress it enough. And I think he really is going to be really nice for the Colts moving forward. Um, just give me your thoughts on the Wesley injury. Of course, we don't get French fries, which is unfortunate, but we get to see your guy Tanner Bortolini. What's your thoughts on him?
Yeah, I mean, it sucks anytime somebody gets injured. I mean, it's not something you ever want to see. So, um, luckily, they got some depth there at that position. Danny Pinter is a guy, he's played center at a good level, so you can feel comfortable with him. They took Bortolini, of course, this year in the draft to kind of groom him to maybe be the center of the future for this team as well. And hopefully, it won't matter at all because hopefully Ryan Kelly plays every snap, and we know how good he is, how good he was last year as well, moving forward, and he can get himself a new contract as well. And this is all just doesn't matter. So, but yeah, sucks to see French go down. Um, Good player, with helps with that depth on the interior O line. Guy that can play multiple spots too, not even just center. I think you can slide him in at multiple spots, but they've got some depth there for sure. So I think they'll be okay.
Yeah, for sure. I was gonna go with my guy Trey Sermon, but that's completely biased. We all know, everyone knows in the Colts fan base how much I have love for Trey Sermon. That dude is just a beast, and anything I say with him would be completely biased, but I can back it up, and you can't defend it anyway. Well, you can't argue it anyway. So, Evan Hall's another person I'm looking forward to watching. He has a big opportunity to move forward. And who's going to take the spotlight from Sam Goat Elliger? Because if you guys forgot, he is the preseason GOAT. So he would be out there displaying some type of play. He has a lot of pressure on him as well. Defensive side, of course, I'm going to go with Nick Cross. Nick Cross has a big opportunity ahead of him besides everything that just happened. He has been having a great training camp, and the chance that he has to become a starting safety, and it's right there for him. This is an opportunity he's never had so far since he's been in the league. I think he can take that step, of course. So I'm looking forward to seeing Bortolini and Nick Cross this game to see what the potential may be for that. Before we get up out of here, is there anything else you wanted to mention before we go, Landon?
No, I mean I think we about covered it. Just ready for football, man. I'm excited. I really do hope they play. Some of the stuff. Like I hope I see Adonai Mitchell out there. I hope we get to see Anthony Richardson out there. I hope we get basically the starters. I'd like to see the starters for at least a few drives. And if I can see that on Sunday, 12 o'clock, it's gonna feel real. Like almost like as soon as they announce, like, yeah, the starters are gonna play, you know, you know, 3 or 4 series or whatever. Like, does it count? Because it's on Sunday at noon, right? Like normal time for me to watch football for Colts football. So like, do I fire up the grill, crack some brews? Like, is this like, is this an actual Sunday of football? So yeah, I'm excited.
I'm definitely excited as well. We appreciate all of you guys for tuning in. This was a good show. We definitely will be back moving forward. We are officially back, man. We're going to be spamming you guys with content. We appreciate all the support moving forward. We are out on all platforms. You think of a platform, we're there. So, like, literally everywhere. We're on Twitch now. So, follow us everywhere. We appreciate your support. Before I get up out of here, I would like to say Brandon Ayuk to pick up the phone, and so Justin Simmons as well. But that's all I got. I appreciate you guys. This is Culture Shock. This is Landon. This is the Blues Table. We will see you guys later.